Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper, and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and another in our series of I Built Them So You Don't Have To. I am piling these on this week. I'm going to get as many of these done as possible. Today I want to do a champion from the Shadowkin faction that I've actually had ready to go for a little while. Just seemed to kept getting bumped for other champions, but we are finally on par here, and I want to show you what I've been able to do with the Shadowkin Void Affinity Taya. Venom Kanai attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 75, bookable to 100% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Blood Boil attacks one enemy, has a 75, bookable to 100% chance of instantly activating any poison or HP burn debuffs on the target. Also has a 75, bookable to 100% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. Dazed Powder attacks one enemy, has a 50%, bookable to 60% chance of placing a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns. All right, let's take a look at her kit or take a look at her artifacts and masteries. First of all, as far as visually, she's very visually appealing. I like the look of her. She looks really cool. The weapons are neat. She's got a katana strapped to her butt, which seems a little weird placement. But then she's got this long. I don't know. This has got a special name that I can't remember. It's like it's a 1.5 hand. This is something that you can swing out as a pole arm, or like it's not 1.5. Like, it's got a pole arm for a standard kind of weapon and reach, but it also has this for more of a poleaxe style attack. It's really cool. Anyway, it's amazing. It looks amazing, yeah. Overall, she looks really cool. But what's more important is how does she work? And for this, I decided not to go into Savage. If you can get her in Savage, then you'll just get that much more. But we used Hell Hades Optimizer, which I can't believe I wasn't using sooner to get these stats. You see right away HP really low. That 12-8 base is so painful. So keep that in mind. You may need some survivability on this champion and sacrificing some of the stats to do so. Even more reason if you have to sacrifice attack and or crit damage to get more survivability, then Savage becomes even more important, because then you can at least ignore that 25% defense. But we have our 65-31 attack, 210 speed, 100% crit rate, 252 crit damage, 201 accuracy, and her masteries currently are sitting like this. I could have put her in Helm Smasher, but we just decided, because I want her to be more useful, I'm probably going to try her out in the Clan Boss. So not in this video, but in a video coming soon, as they stop giving me Spirit Affinity Clan Bosses, which are way more picky on the champions I can use against them, just because of having to protect Eris from getting stunned. Anyway, we did take her down the support tree, mainly just to get this extension on the Master Hexer. Laura Steel is never a bad idea when trying to get stats on champions. Yes, there is a reason why I have her so fast. We'll talk about that when I take her into the dungeon. But so there you go. We have her in Cruel set, we have her in Perception set, and a base attack set. I just happen to have a couple of really good pieces. Best thing is I didn't have to steal any gear from one of my top champions. I think Gergo lost the most amount of gearing out this team. But there's Taya. Now, we have to figure out how to use her. And she's all single target. It's pretty good damage. She's got poisons. She's got this decreased accuracy heal reduction. Here's my problem's a strong word. Here's the downfall of her in Clan Boss. She puts a heal reduction, and she puts a decreased accuracy. And those are 2 debuffs you don't need on the Clan Boss. And while you don't want to lock this out, because this is the activation, you just have to deal with the fact that you're only going to get 8 power buffs on the boss if you're going to use her. We'll test her out in another video. But this here, attacks one enemy 3 times, bookable to 100% chance of placing a poison debuff for 2 turns. And then, decreased accuracy is going to be good. And things like the Hydra. I see her as a really good single target Hydra champion. Poisons are a little bit reductive, but there are a couple of Hydra bosses that do react. You can put poisons on, and it is helpful. So it would be very specific in Hydra, very specific comp, but it is available. And of course, her aura is a pretty decent accuracy in all battles by 50. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to make use of this poison and activation to see what we can do. We're going to take her into the dragon. Let's show you the team right away here. We'll jump into the dungeon. We'll do the dragon dungeon. I'll show you where I kind of put her together. All right, so here's the Dragon 25 team I'm trying out. What we're doing is we're using Poison Explosion. So this is a poison themed team, perfect for Dragon 25. What we're doing is we have Renegade resetting. We've got Zavia exploding, and we've got Tomb Lord and Bad Alcazar and her putting up poisons for Zavia. And then it kind of is a bit of a role reversal when we get on the boss. We're using Taya to put that extra damage by instantly activating some of the poisons on her turns. So I'll show you the team setup. It was a little convoluted because of speeds that I have on my champions, and I didn't want to break some of the speeds. I use some of these champions for other comps. So round 1, we have Zavia starting with Poison Rain, ending up Deadly Catalyst. There's a very specific reason for this. Taya is essentially taking up a debuffer slot. Normally you'd want Tomb Lord to just use his Death Burst to get those poisons out there, but because I'm not using a defense down weakened champion in that slot, I'm using Tomb Lord's defense down instead with the decreased attack. The decreased attack is going to help with survivability. And so you see Renegade is going first. Renegade does Lingering Pain, then Lash Out, does not use Sacrificial Ritual. Then we have Tomb Lord goes, he puts up the decreased defense, decreased attack. Then we have Bad Alcazar, and he's doing Dark Sphere followed by Malice. And then we're having Taya go, and she's doing Venom Kunai, which is putting up those poisons on a single champion. Then she's not using Blood Boil at all. And finally Zavia, she's putting up the Poison Rain, like I said, followed by the Deadly Catalyst. In round 2, Renegade is resetting. Tomb Lord is doing Blight, followed by Death Burst again. Taya, doesn't really matter what she does here. That's not true. I should lock her out here and do this first choice as soon as it's off reset. Bad Alcazar, same thing, Dark Sphere followed by Malice. Same thing here, Poison Rain versus Deadly Catalyst. So that's our group. And then in round 3, I'm just letting them free for all, just getting whatever they can get done whenever they can. We're not trying to play around with any of that. So that's how the team breaks down. And that's why the speeds are so fast. I have Zavia at 209 and Taya at 210 and I think Zavia might actually outspeed her on that second one just because of her mastery. So I wasn't really concerned about it, because really Taya, we want Taya there for the boss to activate those poisons. Keep in mind, she's also going to be really good with our boy Ninja, because he's got the HP burns, which would be nice. And there we go. So boom. There is a little left over. Not a big deal, to be honest with you. This will just help us kind of cycle through a little bit quicker. So not a big deal. Because again, on the second one, she's resetting. We're getting everyone to do their things all over again. Trying to get as many of those as possible. Poisons up. There we go. And boom. Shook. There. So now we're on to the main speed here. And now we're just letting them free for all. Trying to get their talents going. See, she started with her A1. So I don't know if her A3, if she only likes using her A3 when she sees poisons up there. But now we've got some poisons, and you see she just activates them, and it does do some reasonable damage. The advantage of activating poisons is they're not capped. Zavia's ability there is actually capped because she's capped by the nature of these bosses, one of the passives, 21 through 25. But all Taya is doing is saying, hey, each one of the poisons up, just do a tick, and it's actually really nice. She also does really good damage. This isn't obviously my fastest run. I usually do a minute to a minute 15 with the team I use, But this is not a bad run either. I'm not disappointed by it, that's for sure. So you see that 434 cap. That's a pretty common cap on all the enemy max HP explosion type ones. But you know what? I think it's a really good team. It works really well. And it's still under 2 minute 45. But you see there, Taya's doing 1.4 million. It's pretty good. Keep in mind, her kit is very difficult to really use effectively. You have to find a home for her on a team, and I thought a bunch of poisoners would be a really good home for her. So she is usable. She definitely made this go a little bit faster with her than without her, because she can activate those poisons. But it wasn't insurmountable. As far as her damage goes, I really like her multipliers. I really like her damage. So so there you go. That's kind of where I slotted her in. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you built Taya? Do you use her anywhere? Where would you use her? I can see, especially if you don't have Xavia, and you can slot in some kind of sustain, because most other dungeons she's probably gonna die because she has so little health. That's why the speeds are so fast, so that they pretty much, you see that first round, not quite, but every round after, on that second round, we're actually going fast enough that they get their full 2 turns in before the enemy goes. That's why we had to go so fast, so that she doesn't die. But overall, I think it works really well for the team. It's just a matter of finding that home, like I said, for her. So why don't we head to final thoughts, and we'll talk about Taya. My final thoughts on Taya, I really like her. I want to really like her. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag here. As far as damage, her single target damage is pretty darn good. She also has some really unique pieces that are amazing. This chance to instantly activate poison and HP burn on a target is amazing. The 3 poisons is amazing. The aura is pretty darn good. And even a decreased accuracy on an A1 can be useful. Here's my problem with her. She's got several glaring issues that makes her very difficult to use. First off, you put a heal reduction on the same ability as her main explosion. I want to be able to use Blood Boil on the clan boss, but I'm really hesitant to bring in a champion who's going to put a heal reduction that does nothing and a decreased accuracy that does nothing on an A1, so I can't even escape it. These two things make her a lot less usable in a lot of comps, a lot less usable than I'd want it to be, and that's unfortunate because this is such a big damage dealing piece, right? You think of the clan boss does a tick, poisons go from 2 to 1. She goes in, she goes 1 to 0. We get to reset. We're running 2 to 1, 3 to 1 comps. So someone like Draco or Eothar or whoever puts up more poisons and rinse repeat, and that's such a great cycle that you're essentially breaking because you give her a heal reduction. The second problem with her, and it's not so much a problem, it's just the nature of the beast with a lot of epics, is her HP is so egregiously low. The ability to use her in everyday scenarios is very limited because you have to either run double cycles, so you have to run fast enough speeds to get enough turns that the enemy never gets to go, or you have to pad her stats, which means reducing her stats that actually amplify her damage, or you have to bring a reviver, which then can slow down the run because instead of Taya just nuking and moving on, she's having to be revived, which ruins her cooldowns by a turn, and it just makes everything a mess. So it's just more something to keep in mind. Overall, I like the theory of the kit, but unfortunately, I think there would be limited uses for her. I really like her with Ninja. I really like her with Taragi. Those sort of deals where she can just fill in the role. But again, even in Faction Wars, it's going to be a little bit tough because that HP is an ever-looming presence. And you're probably better off just... I've shown Shani. I think you're just better off using Shani over Taya in the Faction Wars. So, love her kit, but it needs to be fixed for her to be really usable. How I would change her is I would take off this decreased accuracy and put something else, something that synergizes better with poisons. And I think this heal reduction is BS. Frankly, we don't need heal reduction on champions. We have heal reduction on so many champions. She doesn't have some kind of heal reduction special ability like a few do. Like, it makes sense if you have heal reduction with Venomage because there's a damage reduction. But an A3 heal reduction is just asinine. It's actually preventing her, and maybe that's the point, it's actually preventing her from being in clan boss comps. So shame on you. I would drop the heal reduction. I would put in a poison sensitivity. I think that you make this champion, she's single target, so she's not OP even with poison sensitivity. But if you give her A3 with poison sensitivity and the 3 poisons on here, boy oh boy, she would be an amazing champion for anyone that pulls her for clan boss progression, for major bosses in the Doom Tower, for bosses in Faction Wars, for Dragon, those sort of things. You could see she was already usable in Dragon, so having that much more usability without this crass heal reduction, especially. I'm not as mad on the decreased accuracy because it does add some weight to her A1, which is nice. And in everyday scenarios, decreased accuracy is actually a decent ability to have, but it's not needed. I'm not a big fan of it. I'd rather her hitting twice on something or getting a 50% chance for something useful, but it's not awful per se to have. It might be even useful in a place like the Hydra Boss if Hydra Bosses were better with poison. So overall, I just think her kit's a little confused. I think that they could really hone in and make a better overall kit for her, where her poison synergizes with a poison sensitivity, or nothing here, or nothing. If you think it's too OP to put poison sensitivity, just have nothing on here. Just have the activating poison. That's enough. That's enough. Get rid of this heal reduction, and if you please, I'd also like to get rid of this decrease. It's funny that the best way to improve this champion is to just get rid of the 2 debuffs other than the poisons that you've given them, and she's instantly a better champion. But the truth is, it makes her instantly a better champion. So take that for what you will. I mean, if we're talking about what would be good for her, though I don't necessarily think you need to do it, up the HP. Again, not every champion has to be the best champion. I fully understand that. I'm just saying, how could you make this champion a top 10? What this is I bet you a lot of people aren't using her, and I think if you removed heal reduction and maybe even the decreased accuracy, I think that alone would be enough to really showcase her in a lot of different areas, including the clan boss. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? What do you think about Taya? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that heal reduction is actually usable somewhere? And I know this heal reduction is usable somewhere, but there's so many champions that have heal reduction is my point. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we need her in a place that I haven't been thinking of. Or where else would you use Taya that you think she would be very beneficial? That's all I have for you today. I want to thank you for joining me in this video. I appreciate you all and your patience as I haphazardly update my YouTube channel. We're going to be pushing out a lot of I Built Them So You Don't Have To this week. I'm going to be filming a lot today and tomorrow. Right now, I actually have to get online to do some streaming. But I want to thank you for watching this video. And as always, please be kind, please be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.